So welcome guys to another real, raw, and related conversation. This is Kendra Tanner from the True You Project. I'm here with a wonderful, wonderful woman, Stephanie Dreyer, also known as VeegMama. And you'll hear more about that and why and what that's about. But Stephanie's here today. She is going to be sharing a part of her story and her journey towards love and self-acceptance that she doesn't often talk about. She has started to recently on her blog. There's a few posts in there, but it's not sort of a central part in her work because it's something that is actually evolved for her and is actually a recent development for her of her realizing, my relationship to my body has changed. I'm starting to judge it a bit more. And so Stephanie, I'm so excited to hear about this, especially, and you'll get into this, but I'm going to kind of put that out there from the beginning, is that a lot of it started after you had your kids. And I think this is huge. I'm not a mom yet, but I can only imagine what that will do and how that will change how I relate to my body. And you've experienced that and are willing to share that. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kendra. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited and a little nervous to share a little bit about my journey because it is very personal, but I'm very grateful for this experience. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I think the nervous thing, it's totally natural. Like we all are. Yesterday, I was sharing in a different context about my relationship with men and like things I've never shared before. You think, oh my goodness. But you know what? It's so good to share it, and it's so good for other people to hear it too. So thank you for going there. So
you're welcome.
What I would love to know is, and I'm sure the listeners want to know, is how did this journey start for you? You kind of got through a good chunk of life, had the kids, no sort of body image, no eating disorder type things that I had. And then all of a sudden you started noticing, I'm judging myself. I'm not liking what I see in the mirror. What was going on for you?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky that I escaped high school without those negative body image issues that unfortunately I see my girls starting to like be aware of now. I have 3 children, and I had my second child before, so I was about 31, I think it was. How old was I? I'm almost 40 now, so I was about 31. When I started going, I started getting a little like obsessed, actually, I would use the word, with my body and losing the weight. And it's interesting because after I had my first child, I lost the weight and I gained a lot of weight with my first child. I was very joyful about my first pregnancy. I ate whatever I wanted. I exercised, but I didn't stress about it. And within the first year, I look back at pictures of me at her first birthday, and I look great. I'm back at my weight, maybe even a little thinner from when I was before. And it was great. I got pregnant with my second. I had a great pregnancy again, exercised, didn't think much about it. But after her, that is when I got really obsessed. I mean, if you ask my family, I was obsessed with losing the weight and looking good in my skinny jeans and being that mom who, looked like she never had kids, basically. And I went a little bit extreme there. In between, when I had my third child, I was pregnant with my third child. I was very fit during that pregnancy, was very concerned about gaining weight. And in fact, I had just started seeing a trainer right before I found out that I was pregnant with him, with my third child, because I wanted to lose that last 5 pounds. And then I got pregnant, and I thought it was going to take me a little longer to get pregnant than I did. And so how it always is. And I remember my focus immediately shifted to, don't let me gain more than this amount of pounds or whatever it was. It was like, you've got to the trainer, you've got to keep me in shape. And it's really interesting because it's actually that uncomfortableness that I had with my body that kind of led me on my vegan journey. Because after I don't know, should I go there with the whole vegan? It's part of the story.
Yeah, but there. Yeah. And actually, before we do, can I ask you one thing? Just because it kind of paints a picture, right? So you're saying you were obsessed with your body. What did that look like for you? Because I know when I get obsessed, I know what that looks like for me. And I was thinking about food in my body 24/7. Like that's what it was. And all my actions were associated with that. So what did it look like for you?
That is very, very similar for me. It was all about when I was going to work out. And if I didn't get my workout in, I was like a basket case. I mean, my mood swings were awful if I couldn't get my workout in. And everything revolved around that workout. My food, I was very strict with what I ate, and I did not deviate from those foods. And if people tried to say anything to me, they got an earful, like, you know, no, I'm not going to eat that. And it was the exercise more than anything, because I love food and I've always eaten pretty healthy, but the exercise was what I became obsessed about, and it was like everything revolved around that time.
Yeah,
and how much exercise I did.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for me. I can totally relate to that. And I was actually thinking about this today of this, I'll call it an obsession. And it's actually one of the reasons why I've stopped running. But anyway, that's my story. I want to hear about you. But another thing I wanted to hear about that was, what do you think changed, right? Because you said after your first kid, not even before your first kid, no big deal. First kid, no big deal. After the second kid, something shifted. What was that?
For the beginning, I started becoming more aware, I think, of needing to lose weight was when I was pregnant. They weigh you all the time at the doctor's office. I never really looked at my weight before. I mean, when I got married, I wanted to lose a few pounds to look good in the dress. Okay. But other than that, I didn't really stress about it. I didn't look at a scale much. It just really wasn't a big deal. But during each of those pregnancies, especially as you get to the end, and then after you have the baby, you go for your checkup, and they're always measuring you. And so I felt like, kind of not like they were judging me, but I felt a little bit of I started to displace that to judgment on myself. Like, wow, you need to get thin, or, you need to lose that weight. And then all of a sudden I was thrust into this community of other moms and babies. And I live in a beach community, and everyone here looks fabulous, even if they've had kids. I mean, they look like they walked off a runway. I'm like, oh my God, they could be bikini models. And so I was never obviously exposed to that before, because I wasn't around that many people. I was one of the first people in my social circle to have kids. So this pressure, self-imposed, admittingly, of just seeing how measuring yourself up against the scale, measuring myself up against these other women, to say, I mean, I remember I would go to these mommy and me classes, and I would see these moms in their yoga pants, and they looked fabulous. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to look like that. That's what I'm supposed to look like. Yeah. And it just kind of messed with my head, and just it just snowballed from there.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, and I'm speculating a little bit here, but a lot of women that I speak to, a lot of the issues around body and food and stuff, it's this core identity thing. And I'm just curious how your identity as becoming a mom, if that shifted something for you, because you were saying, all of a sudden I'm surrounded by these moms, right? And as a mom, they look good. Whereas I don't know, like I said, I'm speculating, but how did that play into it, if at all?
It did. And it actually, it shifted and it affected other areas of my life, as far as, impacted that my whole diet and lifestyle changed, becoming vegan, because of that identity shift to being a mom. And I always wanted to be a mom. That wasn't an issue for me. I knew I wanted to take care of and nurture little beings, and, make them the best beings that they could be. But I also, at the time, had a very nice career that I built up, and was kind of at the pinnacle of my career when I had my first child. So I never really saw myself as the fit, mom. I always saw myself as the working mom, but also that I would be with my kids. So that's kind of shifted with, I was so shocked. I thought, oh, I'm going to have my baby, and I'm going to keep working, because my employer was amazing. I was running an advertising agency at the time, and they allowed me to set up a nursery in the agency. And I brought in someone who helped me, so I could go breastfeed in between meetings. I could have my lunch with my child. I mean, it was really a nice setup.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. But about a year into that, I realized that I can't do both. It was very stressful.
Yeah.
So my relationship with my career changed as as my identity with a mother became much stronger, and me wanting, you don't know how you're going to be when you have kids. Some women are like, I don't want to stay home. Having the job is what I need. And when I come home, that's like the perfect balance for me. For me, unfortunately, or fortunately, that didn't work for me. I wanted to be home more, but I still needed something besides the children to, fuel my brain and my career. So my career ended up shifting and forming different turns and twists to accommodate that. So you were asking me about identity. For me, that mom shifted not only into my personal identity of who I should be and look like, but also my career, and then eventually my diet and lifestyle too.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. And like I said, I haven't had kids, and who knows what'll happen if and when that happens. But if I think back to when my body became a really huge thing for me, it was, again, this identity shift, and it was transitioning from high school into college and kind of re-establishing myself, and when things kind of got a bit messy. And I think it's important, I think, to understand and recognize the impact that change has on our lives, because I think a lot of times we think we're just supposed to smooth sail through it and keep everything together, and it's like water off a duck's back, no big deal, when actually those things can have a big impact on us. And I think when we don't recognize that, and we like kind of beat ourselves up for that, it like you say, it's that displacement. Where do I put that judgment or whatever? Well, it's easy to put it on my body.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, so much judgment. I mean, beating myself up is something I guess we all do best, right? We can beat ourselves up. I mean, there was a lot of that, which, looking back, I think that helped me grow, but gosh, it was painful.
Yeah. So tell me, you were starting to tell me how you got into VeegMama, and it sounds like it's kind of all coming together, right? So it's like this journey with food and body, this journey with career.
Yeah. So interesting. So when I was pregnant the first time, I had been vegetarian for, I had been vegetarian for about 5 years. I'm trying to think how many, maybe 3 years before I got pregnant. So I was pretty well into a new lifestyle when I first got pregnant. I ate vegetarian all through my pregnancy, and into my second pregnancy until I was about 8 months pregnant. And then I craved meat and I ate meat. And, then I had the baby. I was probably the thinnest that I ever was, even to this day. I think I'm healthier now and like fitter now, but I was the thinnest I was after I was crazy obsessed about my exercise and fitness, and I was eating meat at that time. But I wasn't so then I had my third child, and I was not feeling fit or healthy at all like I was after my second pregnancy. And that led me to start just kind of going, gosh, I want to eat healthier. And it's not that I wasn't eating healthy, but there was an internal angst going on. And I recognized it had to do with my identity crisis, like we were talking about, with where do I fit in with my career now? What kind of mom do I want to be? And then there was this internal, like, I just don't feel as healthy as I could be, as vibrant as I could be, which led me to my sister, who lent me a book that she happened to be reading at the time called The Kind Diet by Alicia Silverstone. And it changed my life. I read that book in a matter of hours, and right then and there became vegan. That evening, my family ordered cheese pizza. We were on vacation. I wouldn't touch it. This is like a week after Valentine's Day, where I had steak and lobster with my husband. He's like, what is going on? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So that, and honestly, as I read the book, for me, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, how can I feed my kids milk now that I know what's in it? And how can I feed my kids meat when I know it does this to the body? And it was a very personal thing for me. Like, okay, this is how I'm going to eat. But then it shifted to, oh my gosh, like, I want to give my kids the best nutrition and the best health and the best whatever, to grow into these amazing kids or people. And so for me, it also became a mom mission, which I quickly learned is not that easy when you have already raised kids. My oldest was 6 at the time, and my middle child was 3, and then I had a 1-year-old. So actually, he was 1, she was 4, and then Gabby was 6.5. So it wasn't easy. at
Yeah.
all. They weren't going for it, except for the baby. The baby was the only one who would obviously do what I would do. And my husband wasn't having it at all. He's like, that's great for you. I'm proud. I'm impressed, but no, you know?
Yeah.
And that led me to VeegMama, and it became, and that, you know, it didn't happen overnight, but it was kind of an evolution of me needing an outlet and a way to share my journey, express the joy I was experiencing, and connect with other people to share the lifestyle and be a part of a community that I felt was amazing. And, you know, fast forward, I'm almost 6 years into being vegan, and to see how my family has evolved with me. I mean, I cook only vegan meals in the house now, and they don't eat only vegan. Like when we're outside of the house, they can choose. But it's funny, interesting to me now how we've all grown with the journey, and I'm making my way. I'm finding my way of how to raise a vegan omnivorous family, and how do I make it work, and how do I not my values in that when I'm, you know, trying to be true to myself, but also honor their choices and respect their choices.
Yeah,
so
totally.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And so it sounds like, so you said at the time that you read the book that your sister gave you, that it sounds like it met sort of like two needs in a way. One, it was like, it gave you this purpose, right? Like you can like spread this message and all that kind of stuff. And then it also, you were saying you were looking for something, I forget the word you used, but it's like something like that was more like vibrant or something like that.
Yeah, vibrancy and inner vibrancy.
Yeah, yeah. And so you weren't feeling that, and that this. So how did the vegan diet or whatever fill that for you?
So it was immediate. I mean, literally within the first week, I lost 6 pounds, which I joke is my cheese weight because I loved cheese. I still love cheese, and I eat amazing vegan cheese. Love it. But I joke that, and that was actually really the only weight I lost right away from going vegan, as far as just changing, when I just changed my diet, when I added in fitness stuff, that changed, but just the diet was 6 pounds. So it wasn't tremendous considering I probably only needed to lose about 10 pounds, but I guess it was significant in that I only really needed to lose 10 to 15 pounds. But the other benefits were immediate. Internally, I had this inner radiance, this energy. I already was a high energy, enthusiastic person. I was a mom of 3, so you kind of have to be. But I mean, my energy just shot up. I don't, even to this day, I think, I look around, I'm like, I'm still going, people, catch up. Like, what's up? My husband, I'm like, oh. The energy level, my skin, my hair, people were asking me what I was doing, and I really had no answer except for this change in my diet. There was just an inner glow. It sounds so cheesy, but it's true. Like, I had an inner glow, and I think it was the beginning of me aligning with my purpose, which is what I had been trying to figure out. I kept thinking, when I was doing my career, I was at the agency. I had always wanted to be in advertising since I was a little girl. And I was at the pinnacle of my career. And all of a sudden I'm going, this doesn't feel joyful anymore. This isn't fun anymore. And I freaked out. I was like, what is going on? You're living your dream. And at that same time, I became a mom, which I've always wanted to do. But I was feeling like, God, this isn't as easy as I thought. This doesn't always feel the way I thought it was going to feel. And I really started questioning, is this my purpose? And I think when you have to ask that question, you're probably not on purpose yet. If you're asking if this is your purpose, you're probably not on purpose yet. So when I adopted the vegan lifestyle, I immediately felt this spark, and I can't explain it, but it started me on my purpose. And I know now that I'm on my purpose. I don't have to answer that question or ask that question anymore, because I feel like I'm there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah. And because of that, it's carried me through other ways. You know, there are other things in my life, but that, for me, that inner radiance has really jump-started and ignited a new lifestyle and just a wonderful energy that I never knew was possible, because I have to admit, I was pretty happy before.
Yeah. No, it's such a good point of when you have to ask the question, then you know that something's not right? Otherwise you wouldn't be asking the question. Even when you think you're living the life that you wanted, right? It's like those childhood dreams. Sometimes they manifest and you're like, that wasn't quite what I thought it was. So you mentioned when you first started the vegan diet, you ended up losing a little bit of weight quite quickly. And what I'm curious to know is, did that like kind of fix the whole body image thing for you? Or was there more to it?
So it's a great question. Actually, no, it did not. I have not been satisfied, I think, with where I'm at until probably the last 3 to 6 months. And that was almost 6 years ago. It didn't. It's interesting. I almost put more pressure on myself because I thought, God, I'm eating so clean. Why am I not losing more weight? Why doesn't my body look like X? Why don't my stomach, why doesn't it look like the way it did after I had my second child? It's almost more pressure. And yeah, that has really been a journey for me to figure out, why am I putting so much pressure on myself? Because I am healthy. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I eat delicious food. I indulge, but not crazy. It's not like you can be a junk food vegan and eat French fries and Oreo cookies. Those are vegan, by the way. But that's not the way.
So bizarre.
Yeah, that's not the way I eat. I eat really whole foods, very heavy vegetable and fruit based, whole grains, nuts and seeds. I don't eat a lot of processed stuff. So I couldn't understand, like, why am I not losing more weight? I really took the time this year to put my self-care first, and starting when the kids started back in school in September, I really made it my focus to take care of myself as opposed to lose weight. And it's a very slight difference, but it's really made a difference in how I look at myself and how I approach fitness and diet. Yeah. And so I made that commitment to myself. I'm going to take care of myself instead of trying to lose weight. And so I do things every day that fill me up, that help my body feel good. And that includes eating really good food, exercising, meditation, all those wonderful things. And that has helped me get to a place where I am the fittest and the healthiest. I'm not the same. I'm more on the scale than I was at that point, where I was the thinnest in between my second, right before I got pregnant the third time. Yeah. I'm a size bigger than I was then, but I'm still a small size. I'm still, I look good, so my friends and family tell me, and I shouldn't, not that matters, but I feel good.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling good in my jeans. I was like, this is not good.
Yeah.
And I still have the tummy. Like, I can't get rid of that little muffin top. I try everything, and I'm trying. That is the one part of my body that I'm trying to come to terms with and love and say, okay, you gave me 3 kids. I love you, even though you drive me nuts. I love you. I'm really trying. I'm trying.
Yeah. Do you know?
Go ahead.
You first.
I was gonna say, so that belly, it's interesting that I've been fighting with, including this interview. There's been 2 other incidences recently, situations that the universe has brought me into that have forced me to love my body and proclaim the love out loud, which has been liberating and so healing. Yeah. So it's interesting where it's taking me.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said a couple things in there. I just want to reiterate, because I think it's so important. You were saying that your focus shifted from losing weight to self-care. So the behaviors were quite similar, it sounds like, right? The actions was similar, call it the same, but the intention behind it was different. And also probably the expectation. So I think for me, expectations are huge. Like, if we set expectations and we have this attachment to the outcome of the way things are going to be, it like totally derails us. It's like, because then we're like, well, the expectation, like you were saying, I'm a vegan, I'm eating all this healthy food. My expectation is I'm going to lose weight and look great, right? It's like, and then when that doesn't happen, it creates all this angst and judgment and question, all this kind of stuff. So what you're saying is, like, you were able to let go of that and kind of see, do you know what? The outcome of it doesn't matter so much, but what is important is I'm taking care of myself. And that's like the first form of love, right? It's like the physical care part of it. And then I think what is so interesting, because lately I've been having this whole love journey as well of like, what does it mean to actually love yourself? Like true, its purest form of love. And I feel like you said it, you were like, okay, I love you anyway, even though you drive me crazy, right? And it's like, it's like that form of love that it's like you don't have to be perfect, right? Like you don't have to be like always like nice to me or whatever. It's like, and I love you anyway. Like that's huge. You know, it's
Yeah.
so huge. And to be able to say that to our physical self is one thing, and to be able to say that to our like spiritual self is another thing too. And I think sometimes they go hand in hand. You know, it's like because we like elevate that experience of love when we can accept our physical self, we're then able to accept our spiritual self as well.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. And I love how you're saying like this, you mentioned at the end of that everything is kind of conspiring, right? To like meet you on your journey to allow you to get to this place. So tell me what else has allowed you to, I guess, have that greater love and acceptance for your body and you.
So those, you want me to share those experiences I was talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's funny because, you know, it seemed to come to me exactly when it was supposed to, because if it had come any earlier, I wouldn't have been ready to do it. But two experiences. One is a fellow vegan blogger. She started this movement. Her name is Emily Nolan. She has a blog, My Kind of Life. She started this movement called, well, she has two things going on. And I guess I'm kind of participating in both of them. One was topless. She started this topless yoga movement, and not topless, but in your sports bra. So basically, you're bearing your stomach, and the idea is we shouldn't be embarrassed to cover up, and we should celebrate our bellies and our bodies in whatever shape they are. So I've been practicing Bikram yoga for about a year and a half, and if you've ever taken yoga, but especially Bikram yoga, because it's the hot yoga where you're sweating, everyone's like half naked in there, and they've all got amazing bodies, okay? So it's very intimidating, at least it was for me, with someone who was struggling with their body image, especially their stomach. They're wearing the little top and the little shorts, so your midriff is totally bare. So I had been wearing, you know, full tank, full pants. I felt brave, and I wore shorts, you know, I elevated to shorts. But after Emily started this movement, I was so moved by her, because she's not a size 2. She's a model, but she's not a size 2. And she really embraces that. And I think the industry would call her a plus size model. And she's gorgeous. But anyway, so I thought, you know what, she's going to do this. I can do this. So I did it. I went in a sports bra and my little capris. I didn't do the little shorts. I did the capri pants, and that was huge for me. And I think it's been about maybe 4 months that I go to yoga like that now. I do not have the same body as these women, but you know what, I've stopped judging myself. And when I'm in that class, I think I might have shared with you before, it's a 90-minute meditation with myself where I'm shooting self-love thoughts through that mirror, because you're looking at yourself in the mirror, saying, you look great. Look at those strong abs. Look at how much you've built yourself. Look at how you're this stomach that's birthed 3 kids. Like, I really try to be loving. I try so hard to be loving. I mean, and you have to be in that class because those postures are hard. You have to be nice to yourself, not to beat yourself up. So that was one instance. At the same time that she was launching this, she started what was called a Belfie social media campaign. And this was about a month or maybe 2 months ago. I've lost track. And you can read it. I did a post on my blog as part of the campaign. She invited me to be one of the people participating in the campaign. So I really had to step up. And you had to take a picture of your belly called a Belfie. And then post it with a story. And it was that was my first, like, wow, oh my God, it took so much, I mean, to take a picture, first of all, then to post it on social media. Oh no, I can't do it. And I did it. And the love that I got back. I had a friend, a guy friend say, wow, look at that six pack. And I started laughing. I wrote him back. I'm like, I think it's hilarious that you think I have a six pack. Like, I didn't see it. I don't see a six pack there. I just see a little muffin top right there.
Yeah.
So the love that poured out was amazing. And the people who responded, who were like, oh my gosh, I want to do that, but I'm scared, and encouraging them to say, just do it. Embrace your body the way it is. You look great. You're harder on that's when I first realized I am way harder on myself than anyone else. And I am looking at myself way closer than anyone else is. Like, really, we got to, get away from that. So those two,
we have these own lenses. We have our own lenses that we see ourselves in that can be very skewed from what the reality is.
Yes.
And it takes that kind of like whatever it is, but something to kind of jolt us out of that so we can see it in a different perspective.
It's so true. And so at the same time that I was doing this, about maybe actually 4 weeks after I did the Belfie, there is a TV show called Mom Cave Live, and it's on YouTube, a YouTube show, and it targets the mom community. And the moms who do that were doing a video, and they wanted to profile all different mothers' bellies and post with it, like in the video, show a picture of the belly and then say how many children that belly had birthed and how many months postpartum since you had children. So at this point, I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'll do it. Like, they invited me to
surrender. Okay.
Like, I guess I'm doing this too. And then when I got that video and saw all these women, all shapes and sizes of bellies, from 1 month postpartum to like 12 years postpartum, you really have an appreciation for what your body can do. Like, you go, wow. And it also made me appreciate, I mean, I don't know if this is good or bad, because I was judging myself against the other bellies, but going, you know what? My belly's not that bad. There's definitely a spectrum in there. Yeah, I might not have had the flattest stomach in there, but I also didn't have the flabbiest. And I'm postpartum. Jake's he just turned 6. So this is 6 years later, and just really trying to embrace it, which, I'm saying this, but this is not easy. I mean, this is a constant struggle in my head every day to embrace, what my body is. And I think what's interesting is that I am so easy on every other part of my body. I'm very loving and my other parts of my body are not perfect. My boobs hang differently than they did after breastfeeding. My legs have more cellulite on them than they did before. There's stretch marks on my thighs from when I was pregnant, all that stuff. But for some reason, I can let that go more, and I can be okay with that. But this belly is where I'm holding, and there's some emotion in there.
Yeah. Well, and thank you so much for being honest about that, because what you're also saying is like, I'm still on this journey, like you're still walking it. And I think that's super vulnerable, and it's super scary to say that. So thank you, because I think a lot of times we can listen and we can see other people, and it's so funny. I'm going to tell you this. So I was meeting up with some girlfriends on Monday, and we were saying how there was someone who was writing a blog, and she's like, all my dreams have come true. I'm financially independent, and I had my baby, and now I can, be a mom with my kid. And I remember thinking, well, right? Because good for you that you came out the other side. I'm still in it, right? I'm still working on my financial independence. I don't have my kid yet, and that's my dream and all that kind of stuff. And I think we can start even comparing our own journeys, right? Like we can compare where we are in a journey and say, well, that's, they're on that side and I'm here, and that's better, and this and that. And it's like, it's not about where you are on the journey, because at the end of the day, that journey never ends. Because when you learn one thing, you move on to the next. But also that, like, it's okay to be on that journey, and it's okay to be talking about where you are on that journey with other people. Because I think that's what happens too sometimes is, and I do this, I wait until I've come out the other end to start talking about it, because that's safer. right?
Yes.
And I just want to like thank you from the bottom of my heart for saying that, like, it's a daily struggle sometimes, because I think sometimes that message isn't spoken about, and it's so powerful to hear. And I hope for women that are listening to this that you are just encouraged that you're not alone, and like there's like Stephanie has her journey where she's at. I'm on my journey, and my journey has shifted from my body to other things now that I'm on. It's with business, it's with relationships, but we're on it, we're walking it, and it's a hell of a lot easier to walk it together.
You know what you say, I completely appreciate, and it's so true. I think we were talking about it before too. I have no problem not comparing myself to other people in other areas of my life when it comes to the type of mother I am, when it comes to, and which is in this mom community, it's really easy to judge how you parent, and are you as good of a mom as them? For whatever reason, I'm confident in my abilities. I mean, whether I'm confident or not, because some days I'm not, but I don't judge myself against other mothers. It's not something I do when it comes to my business or other bloggers, or with how other people are approaching their business and career. I don't judge myself. I don't have that mental issue going on, that emotional drama. But when it comes to my body, I don't apply the same way. For whatever reason, I do compare myself to other people. And if I could just get that confidence that I have in those other areas of my life and apply that to my body image, oh my gosh, I think it would be so much easier to love myself and love my body if I could get that other judgment out of the way.
Yeah, but I think you're on the right track. Like, first of recognizing it, like for me, it's like the recognition of it, right? And not denying it. And two, you're noticing the strength that your body has regardless, right? So for you to be able to look at yourself in the mirror with a body that you're not like 100% like, okay, I'm going to stick this all over the world, but you are sticking it all over the world. So good for you for that. But because that's something that I often work with clients on. It's like, how are you judging your body? How does that translate into how you're judging yourself? And then how can you replace that with the forgiveness, right? Like, forgive yourself for it. Forgive whatever that inner critic is that is coming out on a physical part of us. And also to accept, like, to be grateful, right? Like that gratitude, like instead of the judgment, I'm going to be grateful for what my stomach allows me to do. It allows me to do back bends. It allows me to do downward dogs, like all that kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is part of the healing, is to appreciate what it is doing for you and what it has done for you, and love it for that, instead of focusing on what you don't have. And that's been a part of the journey, is realizing I'm not the same person I was when I had that flat stomach. I don't want to be that person anymore. I was very unhappy. I was so obsessed. My sister, she'll tell you, she'll be like, Steph, you were just not that pleasant to be around. That's not who I am now. I'm joyful, and that is infused in whatever I do. So I don't want to be that person. I want to be happy Stephanie. And if that means I have a little bit of a muffin top, then you know what? I guess I should be okay with that.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to what you were saying too about purpose. And I think we were chatting about this too. It's like, and especially for someone listening, ask yourself this too. It's like, if you know you're on purpose, right, and you're serving the world and you're making a difference in people's lives, right, and you're doing that every day, doesn't matter what you look like when you're doing that, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And
that's a great point.
Yeah, it's like, because that's what lights you up, right? Like that's what lights all of us up, is when we are on this track. And someone was talking to me yesterday, is like, what's a 10 in your life? And when you're doing things in your life that are a 10, it's like a hell yeah, right? Doesn't matter what you look like when you do it, especially if it's making a difference for someone else. And it comes back to
I love that.
Yeah, and it comes back to the whole identity thing too, right? It's like, where's my identity? Is it on my career? Is it on my body? Is it on how great my kids are? Is it on what my house looks like, or how clean my bathroom is or isn't? Or is it on who I'm being, right? And what I can give. And sometimes when we can shift that too, it shifts everything, right? So
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell me, what's the what's the biggest what's the biggest shift you've seen for yourself in terms of how you can accept yourself differently? So regardless of the body, but just what that inner shift has been for you.
I think that for me, the shifting started most when I started to align with my purpose. And that led me to be more loving to myself, which for me has become the self-care. Like once I started realizing that I needed to take care of myself versus lose weight or look a certain way, everything in my life, not just fitness and body image, but everything else just started to fall into place. Once I just started doing what I needed to take care of myself, whether it was eating a certain food or getting more sleep or reading whatever I needed to read or, starting the blog, whatever it was that I was screaming out to do, saying, Stephanie, do this, do this, do this, and felt good and was feeling like I was part of, I needed to do it to take care of myself. That's when everything shifted. Like if we can just tap into that feeling and listen to what do you need to do to take care of yourself? Like put all those other excuses aside. What are those 5 things you need to do today to take care of yourself? And then reprioritize your day to make sure you hit those 5 things. And I know it sounds hard, but it's really very simple.
And how do you do that as a mom of 3? That's what I'm curious about, because I know sometimes even for me, I get distracted with doing all this other stuff, whether it's work or stuff around the house or whatever. And it's a conscious choice to put yourself first in that sense. So, and I'm sure some moms are like, I don't have time for this, right? So how do you make time for it? And what reminds you of why it's important?
So it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy. I am extremely efficient. So I would say as a mom of 3, time management is key for me. Like there is no minute that is not wasted. Like I take my calendar very seriously and I plan in there's marked off times for when I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, including like when I know I need downtime, blocking off a half an hour before I go to bed to do my routine at night so that I can just decompress. It means that I get up an hour earlier before everyone else in the house so that I can do the self-care things that I need to do. It means that I plan. I have a lot of systems in place. So that I set myself up to succeed. Like I do my meal planning once a week, my grocery shopping once a week. I make my lunches while I'm prepping dinner. So, I have systems in place to make sure that I'm hitting the things that matter, but also allowing time, to do the things that fill me up. So while my kids are in school, that's when I'm working on my writing and developing my business. And some of it is prioritizing and not beating yourself up. Like I'm not over scheduling too. I have a million things that I want to do, but also realizing, Rome wasn't built in a day. And no one's going to judge you if you don't achieve it tomorrow, if you achieve it in 6 months versus 3 months or whatever it is. So that's been part of it too, is really like what's realistic. And as long as you're bringing joy to it every day and getting the work done and getting it done, you're on the right track. But yeah, for me, like the time management is really key. And, it means sometimes you stay up a little later than you want to, maybe. Like I know I've been pulling a little bit of late nights. I'm still in bed at the regular time, but I'm not getting that half an hour in before that I wanted to. Okay. But I'm making sure I get my hour in the morning. So there's things that, you kind of play with it.
And why is that important? Because I feel like a lot of times, again, I'll put myself in this. It's like, it's easy to forget why it's important to put us first, right? And as women, it's so easy for us to give and it's harder for us to receive and even receive from ourselves. So how have you been able to accept that it is important and make that a priority?
Well, I've seen it firsthand with myself. I didn't put myself first for many years, and I have a husband who's amazing and is way more involved than a lot of my friends' husbands. When he's home, he's really committed to being with the family, but he travels a lot, and I feel like it was my choice, but I would take on a lot more. And and a lot of self-imposed pressure of like, oh, well, I need to be like the super mom and the volunteer mom. And oh yeah, and I want to do my writing too. And it was like craziness. And I became a martyr basically when I didn't put myself first. It was like, well, I'm doing this for everyone else. And I was, seeing my kids and seeing my husband's kind of reactions to that. And they weren't interacting with me in the way that I envisioned my motherhood plan would be. And I wasn't.
You weren't enjoying the pity party?
Right, exactly. I'm like, what? So when you see that, right, you go, wait a minute, this isn't how it's supposed to feel. And so, I realized, well, this is me putting this on me. And my husband used to say to me all the time, he would be like, because I took a great pride in having home cooked meals and everything. I take great pride in, I love to cook, so I take great pride in that. But my husband would come home and he would say, you know what, I wouldn't care if you made macaroni and cheese or brought in dinner, if you would just be happy. And, when you come home and the house is calm. And after a while of this, I finally have gotten that. I finally am like, okay. And I started putting myself first and letting things, reprioritizing the things that weren't important. And, so yeah, we still have home cooked meals every night, but yeah, maybe one of those nights it's chili from a can, or it's something like soup, like pasta and sauce, whatever, something easy. And I have realized what a difference in me, like I am happier, I'm more joyful. I see the difference it's had in our family. And when you see that, you're just like, well, I'm not going to, why I have to put myself in this. Like, that's just sorry. Mama's got to go get her workout in, or she's going to be a basket case, like they get it. They'll say, Mommy, you're in a bad mood. Do you need to go like exercise? Do you need to go meditate? Like they'll say things to me and I'll be like, you know what? I didn't get my exercise in yet. You know what? I'm going to go do a 30-minute run. Good idea. I mean, so hopefully I'm teaching them. And I think I am actually, because my daughter, my oldest, she's in middle school now, and she'll come home just overwhelmed with homework, and she's got activities to get to, and she'll say, Mama, I need 30 minutes to decompress. Her words, decompress, not mine. I don't use that word. And I'm like, my first reaction is like, no, you got to get the homework done. You've got half an hour before we've got to get to whatever it is. And I finally accepted. I thought, you know what? Okay, that's the way she's learning to take care of herself. And she's much more clear when she does it. Even if that means she has to stay up later when she gets home to get it all done, she needs that time. And I'm like, I'd like to say that I'm a little bit responsible.
Yeah, no, but I think you're right. And it's setting that role model and that example. And I'll just quickly share, I can totally relate to that. It's sort of letting go and thinking, oh, like what's going to keep you think, it's going back to that expectation. I think that my husband's really going to appreciate having the meals perfect. Or for me, it was the dishes done. He could care less. He wanted me to chill out with him after dinner and relax, right? And so it's like, and once you can kind of shift that, it has a knock-on effect. And I think it boils down to this concept of who are you being versus what are you doing, right? So it's not so much the doing and the scurrying and all of that, but who are you being and all of that? And that comes down to that self-care to allow us to be the best that we can be for the people around us.
It's true. I 100% agree.
Yeah. And it sounds like for your daughter to pick up on that, like we do, right? When we're young, we pick on that stuff. So that's amazing. Like setting the example for the next generation, which is so important. So Stephanie, this has been an awesome conversation. It's gone places totally unexpected. So thank you for going there and being so open and real and raw with us. I've got one last question for you. What's the biggest thing that you've learned from this journey?
Well, that would be that one is we're way more harder on ourselves than anybody else, and we're paying way more attention to what our body looks like than anyone else. And if we can just remember that and be kinder and more loving, like I just said, one of the biggest learnings I've had in addition to that is the minute I started self-caring, or I'm making it a verb now, showing myself love and listening to what I needed to take care of myself, that's when everything in my life shifted. And I come back to that. Like, just remember to take care of yourself. Do what you need to take care of yourself. And some days that might mean I need that piece of chocolate, or I need that extra glass of wine. And I don't beat myself up about it. I go, you know what? It was a tough day. Have the glass of wine. That's what you need right now. Another day it might be I really need an extra hour of sleep. I'm not going to get up and do my workout or whatever it is. Don't beat yourself up. Like, if you listen to what you need to do to your body, everything just kind of falls into place. That's what I found for me to be true.
I totally agree. 100%. Hold on to that, women. It's so true. Thank you so much again. And I'm sure you're going to inspire every single person who listens to this. Where can people find out more about what you're doing, and find out about VeegMama and more inspiration that they can get from you?
Oh, sure. Well, you can come on over to my website at VeegMama.com, VeegMama.com. And I've got all sorts of stuff on there, recipes, videos. I've got a YouTube channel as well, but just go over to VeegMama.com and you can get more inspired there.
Yeah, cool. And I love, so I'm not a vegan. I'm actually going to have hamburgers for dinner. I hope you don't mind. But I love the, like, for me, being able to, it's finding what's true for you in terms of what diet works for you. And I think to be able to stand behind that, whether it's veganism, whether mine is kind of like, eat what feels good, right? like
right.
Don't say no. And that's kind of, I've gotten there because of my path. And I feel like too, for people listening, it's like, we didn't get into the diet part of it in the sense of what you're eating in terms of diet, not going on and off a diet. But I feel like there's something to be said for finding what works for you, and that being a part of your path and your spiritual path as well. And so, like, thank you again for that, because you're contributing to the world in that way, which is awesome. And I'm inspired by your recipes. So even though I might have them alongside of meat,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, so for some people, just incorporating more plants into their diet, you don't have to,
in ways that taste good, right? Like it's not the same old potato. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, Stephanie, thanks again so much. It's been absolutely awesome. Can't wait to connect with you again. And again, it's VeegMama.com for Stephanie. And I'm over at the True You Project for more conversations with women getting real and raw with each other and you. So thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.